It's been 1,938 days since I last paid rent. What started as a distressful event that turned my life upside down, very slowly, with the help of my resourcefulness, turned into a life led by freedom. Back then, I could have never imagined how different my life would look like in 5 years' time. The string of events leading from one to another led me down a path I didn't even know existed. But slowly, step by step, I started trusting myself and my invisible guidance that this unconventional lifestyle is the right direction for me. I've always been a nomad in one way or another. Now, without being tied to one specific location, I was even more reluctant to roam around freely. Not having the burden of this huge expense, I gathered my courage and in January 2025 quit my job and a career I was building for almost 20 years. And finally, in an attempt to find my dream property and build a more sustainable life for myself, the path led me east to Bulgaria. What started as a solution to not being able to pay for my rent evolved into a new way of living altogether, a much simpler and freer way of living. My story is a great example of what happens when you let go of expectations of how your life should look like and seize the opportunities that present themselves even in the most painful or unsettling situations. It's a story about carving your own path and building your life in a way that reflects your true needs and desires. It's a story about finding peace while navigating life's uncertainties. It feels a bit cliché to say this, but I didn't really choose this kind of life. It feels like it simply unraveled, like it chose me, and I just jumped on it to enjoy the ride. Little did I know this would be the most scenic, most transformative, healing, and freeing ride of my life. I already have hair in my coffee. Good morning. I realized a couple of days ago that it's been more than 5 years since I paid rent and had like a normal, stable life, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And it got me started thinking about how drastically my life has changed in these 5 years and how much I have changed for that reason, as a result, I guess. Yeah, my life went from being this normal, quite secure, living in my own little apartment, having my life as usual in the city, to now like roaming around the world and sometimes not knowing where I would be in a couple of months, or most of the times even like in a couple of weeks or even days. You can definitely look at this from two perspectives. One is like, yes, losing that security of having your own home, having your own apartment and being very comfortable, having your routines and your normal daily life. But then again, you lose a lot of freedom when you are tied to just one location and you have to pay rent and you have to take care of your house and your garden and everything that goes with that. And of course, you also have to pay money for it, either if you have your own property or if you have an apartment, if you're renting something, there's always going to be costs, which for me, it's just I can't believe that I haven't paid like rent, electricity, any utilities, anything for more than 5 years now. It's definitely the biggest burden, financial, I guess, of living. So not having that just gives you so much more room to do other things. I just find it so crazy, the things that I've done, the places that I've been, the places where I lived. In these 5 years, I lived in how many countries? I lived in Spain, I lived in London, I lived in Slovenia, I now live in Bulgaria. It started by really taking a chance, and gosh, I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't want to leave that security. I didn't want to leave the comfort that I had. I had a very good thing going. I had a nice apartment for a very good price with a nice landlord in an okay location. And because the pandemic cut my paycheck in half, I had to leave it like really suddenly. So I came up with an idea and I started doing work exchange. Yeah, that just led me down a path that I didn't even know is possible or existed. It just opened up the world to me and all the possibilities, and just gave me so many ideas and so many alternatives on how a life can be lived versus, the normal situation of most people. And it just gave me so much confidence that, okay, there's other ways of doing this. You don't have to follow what everyone is doing. And once I learned that about the world and about myself and how things also can operate, that just changed the trajectory of my life completely. So 5 years later, I'm still living this kind of lifestyle where I'm basically just exchanging my time and energy for rent, which is what people would do with a job, but I don't have a job. I'm just staying in places, taking care of them, taking care of animals. Yeah, working towards having my own place, of course. But 5 years ago, if you'd asked me, I couldn't have ever predicted that I would live like this. I guess that's like the whole point of why I even have this channel, which, as I mentioned many times before, is to show that there's other ways of doing things. And if you're a bit resourceful, if you're open to possibilities, to opportunities, then a lot of crazy things can happen. A lot of unconventional situations, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of my life, how I live now. Still not paying rent, just enjoying life in beautiful rural Bulgaria with my 2 kitties. Not mine. Not my kitties, but they are for now. And how life is when you let go. In these 5 years of not paying rent, I have lived in some really incredible places. Some of which include a boutique hotel in the mountains where I worked as a receptionist. I stayed in a yurt at my parents' house. I lived in London with my then partner and in an actual cave twice. But in all these situations, I was either living in a community with family, the owner, or my partner. I was never alone. It's only been for the last year, since I moved to Bulgaria, that I've been enjoying solitude in beautiful rural areas from Rhodope Mountains to the Black Sea coast. It feels like I finally cracked the code, taking care of people's pets and properties while they're away in exchange for free accommodation. In practice, this can look very different depending on the place itself. In some situations, I just look after the animals, mostly cats and dogs. In others, there's a whole property to maintain, like this one. There's a lot of land, and if I want to enjoy it, I need to take care of it. Honestly, it's the least I can do for having all this space for myself. And besides, I really enjoy being outside, learning new skills, and getting my hands dirty. The biggest and most life-changing effect that transpired because I don't pay rent or have my own property was that I was suddenly able to live without a paycheck. My monthly living expenses are very low. Since I don't pay rent, property tax, utilities, property insurance, maintenance, and so on, I'm able to live with very little money. By far the biggest expense is food. And I don't splurge. I could definitely live even more frugally when it comes to groceries, but unlike what most people might think about Bulgaria, is that food here is actually quite expensive. Definitely more expensive than some of the other places where I lived, like Spain, Slovenia, and even UK. There are, of course, ways to minimize this expense, and most Bulgarians are very resourceful in this way. They have their own gardens, at least people living in the countryside. They shop for produce at local farmers markets, which are usually much cheaper than supermarkets, and they also barter with their neighbors, which I haven't done much since I change my location quite frequently. I do, however, plan to do that, and I want to also plant my own garden when I finally have my own property. When it comes to food, I really do my best to eat fresh ingredients and try to avoid processed food. I do mostly eat vegetarian. I rarely buy and cook meat myself, and I am dairy intolerant, so that definitely impacts my diet in a significant way. But more than that, I feel like I'm at an age where if I want to feel good in my body, I don't really have much choice. Besides doing my best to eat nourishing food that also triggers my dopamine, my priority is to spend as much time outside as possible. If the weather allows, I'm out from morning to sundown. Unfortunately, the temperatures we've had in Bulgaria this April are more like lottery numbers than a constant weather prediction. Some days are very warm, some still feel like winter, and generally, nights are very cold. There's still snow in the nearby mountains, and the stone house needs a fire to warm out throughout the day and especially in the evenings. That's why when the sun finally calls for short sleeves, I make sure to take full advantage of it and soak it all up. No noise, no obligations, no distractions, just me and the sun bathing together. Like this, nothing's happening. I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's so much harder than what you would think. How the hell am I gonna do this? I absolutely love living alone in this like rural, remote countryside, beautiful, peaceful place. But the reality is that you have to do everything alone, even the things that you don't want to or you don't know how to. And so is the case with this garden that needs to be mowed. And yeah, the trimmer stopped working after 4 days. Maybe it's my fault, maybe it's just a cheap thing from China. But I thought I could figure out how to do it manually, because I mean, growing up, I saw it being done all around me. Never did I think it would be useful to actually learn something like that. And you know, 30 years later, I would be here living alone with all this grass around. Yeah, definitely it would be easier if someone could show me how to use it and to actually put it together properly, because I didn't put it together properly. I don't have a hammer. I don't have many things, so I just have to improvise. So I guess we're just gonna try again tomorrow and see what happens. Otherwise, I'm just gonna get a sheep or a horse inside here and be like, munch on it. Yeah, I have to take a little break. I was working on the garden outside for the entire day today. I didn't record everything because it would be too boring, but yeah, I'm happy I was outside. I just like, that's the whole point of all of this. I just want to be outside pretty much all the time, getting busy, right? You too want to be outside. So I really enjoyed it, but yeah, now I just got super frustrated that I cannot do this grass thing. But yeah, it's time to relax a little bit. So, oh yeah, my God, this feels so good.
too many humans aren't actually inclined to live here in order to potentially leave their destructive footprint in place. I felt so alive in this weather. My 8 years in windy, cold Iceland stayed with me.
Because a couple of days after I got back, we had an actual snow pandemic here in the mountains. It was about a meter of snow that fell in less than a week, so everything was completely covered in snow. It was impossible to drive up to my property in my UTV. I had to